Hi there, welcome back to your favorite deep dive show on stories contemporary and consequential for India. This episode comes to you from Israel. I traveled from the Golan Heights to Haifa, from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, from the entrance of the Gaza Strip to where it all began, the Nova Music Festival site of October 7, 2023 attack of Hamas. What comes out of this journey is a story of a nation in perpetual conflict, but drawing from an inexhaustible supply of resolve, perhaps going back millennia. It's the story of Israel and its 8-front war. Let's get going. This is the picture of the founder of modern Israel. His name is David Ben-Gurion. He was the leader of the Israeli Defense Forces through much of the 1940s and established the State of Israel in 1948, much against the wish of its neighborhood, against the teeth of opposition. And that pretty much explains the existential angst that has defined modern history of Israel through much of its existence. Just last week, during excavations around the Temple Mount, a coin was found. It dated back to 74 AD and spoke about a Jewish rebellion against the Romans, who had thrown out the Jews around that time and captured Jerusalem. The Jews were rebelling then, revolting then, and in some ways they continue to do it even now. I got a glimpse of this existential angst at the Hostage Square in Tel Aviv, at the Nir Oz kibbutz near the Gaza Strip, and even more poetically at Majdal Shams in the mountains of Golan Heights. It is here in this village that on July 27 last year, a Hezbollah rocket from the other side, from Lebanon, came in, fell on a football field, killing 12 children, mostly teenagers and younger, when they were busy playing soccer. We are in Majdal Shams village in Golan Heights of Israel, and this spot is a football field, and this was a scene of a massacre of innocent children playing soccer on 27th of July last year. These are the pictures. These villagers call them their 12 angels. A rocket came in from just behind this hill. If I could ask that hill to be shown, just to give you an idea of how close Lebanon and the Hezbollah are. Just across the hill is Lebanon. This side is Israel. And a rocket came in. These kids were playing here, and I will introduce each one of them to you. We have spoken to their mothers. There was a ceremony here that took place just a while back, a somber ceremony remembering those angels, as this village calls them now. And look at those 12 kids. I would read their name so that we have it, their memories for our record also. Amir Abu Saleh, age 16, Yazan Abu Saleh, both brothers, age 11, Johnny Ibrahim, age 12, Fajr Abu Saleh, age 16, Naji Halabi, age 11, Alma Fakhr Alden, age 11, Milar Shar, age 10, Hazem Abu Saleh, age 15, Ezel Ayub, age 12, Nazim Saab, age 16, Guevara Ibrahim, age 11, Venice Safadi, age 11. Some of them wanted to become soccer players, some of them wanted to become basketball players.
מהדקה הראשונה, אנחנו 12 המשפחות, עמדנו ואמרנו, הילדים שלנו שגרירי שלום. הם מתו במלחמה, אנחנו לא רוצים שאף ילד ואף בן אדם ימות. אנחנו לא רוצים לנקום מאף אחד, לא מחזבאללה, לא מאף אחד. אנחנו רוצים לחיות בשלום, רוצים שלום לכל העולם. אתה לא הספקת לראות את הוידאו שצילם את הבן שלי, אני אעביר לך את זה. הוא אמר, אני ואתה נשנה את העולם, באהבה ותקווה נעשה הכל בעברית. כולנו חברים, כולנו אחים, רוצים לחיות בשקט ובשלום.
All the 12 families think. They call them angels, not just angels, angels of peace. I think she showed you the video saying, me and you are going to change the world. That's what they want. They want peace. They don't want They don't want to revenge. They don't want nothing. The only thing they want peace. So if Hezbollah will make peace with Israel, for them, that's what they want. They don't want to kill anyone. They don't want anyone to die.
I lost my daughter, my beloved one. She was a sandwich, you know. But when I look to the kids, they deserve a better life. They deserve to live their childhood away from wars, to live it with full of happiness and safe, with dignity. But I'm asking the whole world right now, what more needs to be done to understand that? We are smart enough to believe that we can live together. All we need that acceptance. I'm not going to say peace. Peace, it's a beautiful word, but it's too much for this world. I'm going to say acceptance. When we accept each other, we can live because we share humanity. So we can live together. Of course, I believe for her. You know that Alma recorded videos talking about bullying? Not only talking, she took action. She stood beside a girl, 6-year-old, that her friends were making jokes about her. She stood by her, promising to meet her weekly in order to bring joy into her life. She believed in justice in this world. She hated injustice and inhumanity.
This is story of the Druze village of Majdal Shams and the way it is responding to it that gives you an understanding of how Israel as a nation has turned tragedies like this into stories of resolve to tackle that existential angst. The story of India's diplomatic ties with Israel is a story of India's confusion on this issue from early years of independence. Mahatma Gandhi thought that the Jews had equal, if not more right than the Palestinians on this land. He also thought that the Jews had an earlier right than the Palestinians over this land. And yet, he was not sure how it would go from there. Like many other things in life, that confusion almost got carried into India's foreign policy. Pandit Nehru refused to recognize Israel in 1948. Physicist, scientist Albert Einstein wrote to him, asking him, pleading him, requesting him to do so. But he said no. In his response to Einstein, Pandit Nehru said that he was not sure how the larger Arab world would see India's position on Israel. Also, he wrote in the same letter that the new India's new minority, that of Muslims, had a certain view on Palestine and that he would not want to go against that view. Effectively, Muslims of New India exercised a veto on India's foreign policy in West Asia. We did finally recognize Israel in 1950 under Pandit Nehru, and a consulate was set up in 1953 in Mumbai, but then things stopped there, nothing moved. And then we had to wait till 1992 when a non-Nehru, non-Gandhi Prime Minister in P.V. Narasimha Rao decided to establish full diplomatic ties with Israel, exchanging ambassadors between Tel Aviv and New Delhi. We are at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Israel in Jerusalem, and this plaque is dedicated to David Levy. He was Foreign Minister of Israel 3 times between 1990 and the year 2000. Remember also the period when the Oslo Accords were signed, and he was in the midst of intense diplomacy. He improved relationships of Israel with many nations around the world, got diplomatic relations established. This plaque says with about a dozen odd countries, including world powers. And what is interesting is that it says his contribution strengthened Israel's status among nations and won the esteem of many countries, including the United States, China, Russia, India, Japan, and Arab countries. So India is specifically mentioned as one nation with which Israel improved its relationship during that period. Remember, that is the decade, 1992 to be very specific, when the then government of P.V. Narasimha Rao established a diplomatic relationship with Israel, something Nehru had not agreed to back in 1948. For whatever reasons, it thought that the Nehru government thought that it would offend its relationship with the Arab world, and maybe there was a home constituency of the Muslim community also to address, which many believe was part of Muslim appeasement politics. More of it later. Remember, all this while, Israel, with its tremendous military experience, helped India in its wars be it 1965, 1971, or the Kargil War. Even the latest episode of Operation Sindoor, we had Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu clearly saying that yes, we did help, and our platforms, battle-tested platforms and not lab-tested platforms, weapon systems, worked fantastically well. Israel effectively, so far as India's foreign policy is concerned, was like that cousin you hide from the rest of the world for some strange reason. Till Narendra Modi happened. He set the ball rolling when he became Prime Minister in 2014 and, in fact, became the first head of the state of India to visit Israel in 2017. That pretty much explains the state of affairs and how it went on for decades insofar as India-Israel ties are concerned. To assess the present state of our ties, I traveled to Haifa in northern Israel. It has the largest port of the country and is run by an Indian company. It is in many ways now a symbol of collaboration on strategic domain and industrial domain together between India and Israel. In fact, the story of Haifa goes back a century to the World War I. Take a look. Haifa in Israel has been in news of late. The Haifa port, to be very specific, in the context of that being the entry port for the India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor into Europe. We are in Haifa. This is the Haifa cemetery, and this is a place which memorializes a battle, the Battle of Haifa during the First World War. And the Battle of Haifa was won for the British against the Ottomans by Indian soldiers, 29 of whom are memorialized here. And this is a stone in memory of them. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was here in 2017. It says, Om Bhagavate Namah, Ek Omkar. 29 soldiers of the Indian Army are honored here, which includes 29th Lancers, the Deccan Horse, Sawar Bhoma Singh, Bhoop Singh, Sawar Ramlal Ranjit Singh. Then you have 105th Maratha Light Infantry, you have 91st Punjabis Light Infantry, you have the Sikhs Frontier Force, and you of course have the Jodhpur Lancers, Jaipur Lancers and the Mysore Lancers. Now, in Delhi, we know we have the Teen Murti Chowk redesignated as the Teen Murti Haifa Chowk because the Teen Murti also memorializes this very Battle of Haifa. So this is the connect between Haifa, the century-old connect between Haifa and Delhi, and of course IMEC, the new modern 21st century connect between the two nations. Israel, of course, wanting to become a full member of IMEC, for which we spoke to the head of the Middle East Bureau in Jerusalem, Jonathan Zatka. Listen to him. Is I2U2 doing fine? Because it's a grouping between India, Israel, UAE and the United States. No adverse effect of this war on I2U2?
Look, the war affected many things. I think different elements of priorities and different sorts of engagement. For us, when you look at the I2U2 element, the India, Israel, United Arab Emirates and United States cooperation, the fact that we are able to carry on and having a meaningful discussion through it is extremely important, and hopefully we will be able to see results soon.
All right, and finally on IMEC, which is a development that has taken place recently, is still in the works, while Israel is part of that geography which we talk about, India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. I believe Israel is not a signatory. Does it affect Israel's involvement with IMEC?
So Israel is not yet a signatory. We were, as you said, mentioned within the MOU. Haifa especially is mentioned as a port in the MOU. This is, again, a port in which India has a major stake in. And for us, the fact that we are not a full signatory is hopefully temporary and would be able to ratify it soon. And for Israel to join officially together with other countries like Jordan, the IMEC is extremely important for this route to actually carry weight.
And yet, Israel is a strong and vibrant democracy just like us in India. We were pleasantly surprised when we were taken to a hostages briefing by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The spokesperson assigned, a senior diplomat, a former ambassador of Israel to France, turned against his own government, lambasting the Netanyahu government for its handling of the military operations in Gaza, which were obstructing their attempts to get the hostages from the captivity of Hamas released.
There are still 50 hostages in Gaza. There were 251 at the beginning. Most of them came back through an agreement. Some came back, unfortunately, in body bags. And among the 50, there are also many, unfortunately, who are not alive. But we consider, and in Jewish tradition it's very important, anyone as a hostage, regardless of if they are dead or alive. So as I said, even if from the beginning it was clear that the conflict to a large extent hinges on the issue of the hostages, it's not the only issue. Yeah. But there's an issue of a military balance, of fighting Hamas. But we have the impression that that has, done its role, and that we're now, the military operations we're turning in circles, and that it's time to move to the conclusion of this war through an agreement.
Or look at these protests and the voices there, slamming the Netanyahu government for sustaining the wars just to sustain his leadership. Strong words against Netanyahu right outside his office in Jerusalem. What are these protests about?
Well, it's about democracy, basically. The essence of democracy. Because our government try to make us some kind of dictatorship. And it's all around it. Because of this, the war continue in Gaza with no...
You mean to say that...
No target, nothing.
You mean to say the war should stop?
Long time ago. Most of the people in Israel think so. We disagree with what's happening there. We just want our people back. There's something the other nations don't understand. When somebody is taking one of our own, we can be very brutal. This is something the Hamas knows, the rest of the world doesn't know it. But besides this, the force, there is nothing to do anymore.
We are at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Israel in Jerusalem, and just finished a briefing by the Foreign Minister, Gideon Sar. He's leaving for the United Nations in New York tonight, and before that he did this briefing in which he really slammed some of the Western nations for the kind of position they have been taking on Hamas and the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza. Because remember, we have seen in the last 10 days about 15 nations, including the United Kingdom and France and Canada, announcing that they're going to recognize the state of Palestine if the war does not stop. Israel believes that the war can end only if the hostages, the remaining hostages, are released by Hamas from their captivity. When October 7 attacks happened, remember they had taken about 251 hostages, of which about 150 were released, and some are not accounted for, but 50 remain in captivity with the Hamas in Gaza. That brings us to Benjamin Netanyahu, the leader who came out as a man of clarity and conviction when we met him at his office in Jerusalem. I asked him a question about the Gaza situation and also on India's relationship with Israel. On the latter, he said, it's only up, up and up. I was pleasantly surprised that he spoke with absolute clarity and with openness about India-Israel military relationship. And that's surprising because most of the Israeli diplomats try to brush it under the carpet, also the Indian side. But more significantly, he said he would be sanguine on Gaza. With the doubling down of military operations, he said that Israel and Netanyahu himself might get into momentary isolation. But if they come out victorious of their Hamas war on the other side, which he was very confident of, then in that case, the geopolitics of the world would realign and Israel would be shaping the narrative.
אנחנו צריכים להמשיך לעמוד יחד, להילחם יחד, כדי להשיג את מטרות המלחמה שהצבנו, את כולן. את הכרעת האויב, שחרור חטופינו, והבטחה שעזה לא תהווה יותר איום על ישראל. בהמשך השבוע אני אכנס לקבינט כדי להנחות את צה"ל כיצד להשיג את 3 המטרות הללו, כולן בלי יוצא מן הכלל.
In fact, it seems that Netanyahu has his ear to the ground as it comes out from this vox pop from the Western Wall, the Wailing Wall in Old Jerusalem. Your homeland has been in the midst of a lot of wars.
Correct.
Israel-Iran war, Israel-Hamas war, Israel-Houthi war,
Yes.
Israel-Hezbollah war.
Yes, before the light comes a lot of darkness. So there's going to be a very bright period, a very bright future. But when there's challenges, that shows you got to push through, and then the light will come. Mashiach is eternal light.
But you think the war should end sometime?
Of course, we have to show more strength to fend off the enemies. Show more strength, and then they'll surrender. That's all we can do.
All right.
Otherwise, it will keep going.
Did you hear Prime Minister Netanyahu has decided that the Israeli forces will again go in Gaza and completely capture the territory? And
Really?
Yes.
Oh, amazing!
You approve of that?
I don't know geopolitics a lot, but I know that that's part of the land that God gave to Abraham. It's part of the land of Israel, and it was a mistake to give it away, as we see what Hamas did to it. And in my personal opinion, I don't think there's another solution to have Hamas or a Palestinian Authority run that place, because we see that they run themselves into the grave, and they could have made it into Singapore. They could have made it into, it's beach town. You could literally made it into Miami Beach, but they ran that to shit. And I think, the Israeli government is doing a good job taking care of their Arab population. I think it's a good idea.
Thank you so much.
All right, God bless.
So that really, gives you an idea of the kind of connect that Netanyahu has, it seems, with the ground. Because remember, we met Prime Minister Netanyahu. He exactly said things like, people understand the language of his strength. People understand the language of power. And we really need to make sure, that's what Prime Minister Netanyahu said, that we go back into Gaza and make sure that Hamas is completely decimated. I asked Netanyahu in that interaction that if the war is stopped in Gaza, what he thought of a Nobel Peace Prize, like his friend Donald Trump. He said, well, he would not bother about an award from a Scandinavian municipality. He was condescending. But then he also narrated a story. He said that when the funeral of former Prime Minister of Israel, a Nobel laureate, Yitzhak Rabin, was going on, someone who had participated in the peace process, Oslo Accords, a leader whispered in his ears, in Netanyahu's ears, that maybe if he could solve Palestine and follow the path of Yitzhak Rabin, he could get a Nobel Peace Prize. To which Netanyahu responded by saying that no, he would rather be guided by his own national interest. That seems to be the Israeli strategy going forward and perhaps forever. Thanks for watching.